Happy academic year, everybody. We're so happy to be together again. Notice I did not say welcome back. I always like to remind my colleagues who were lucky enough to have summer off that many of us work all the way through the summer, and we want to thank all those that did for holding down the fort, and we do welcome back those who were away from us for a few months. We've got some exciting welcomes and talk for you today. I just want to let you know where we're going. So in just a few minutes, we're going to hear from President of the Board of Trustees, Tim Jamal. We were going to hear from our Chancellor today to protect all of you. She had an exposure over the weekend, and to protect all of you, she's staying away this morning. So we will not hear from Julie, but I promise we'll hear from Dr. Burns at a later. Hear from me. Dan Walsh is staying away today, but he was kind enough to send in a video, so we're going to hear a little video welcome from him. And we are going to hear a welcome in person from Erlen Bello, the president of our classified Senate. So that's the game plan today. I want to welcome all of you, but I want to particularly acknowledge folks from the district who are here. I saw a couple of my Vice Chancellor colleagues. Chris McDonald, if you're in the room, I saw you. Anne Marie Gable, if you're in the room, thank you so much for being here. I want to acknowledge and thank our trustees for being here. Join me, please, in welcoming and thanking Trustee Milchiker, Trustee Inman, Trustee Pendergrass, Trustee Jamal, and Trustee Rydell. And without further ado, we're going to get the welcome started. I'm going to invite up Trustee President Tim Jamal.
I'm glad you told me I shouldn't say welcome back. I was going to say welcome back, but welcome. It's great to be here at the onset of the academic year. How many, I mean, just a show of hands, how many people here are faculty? Okay, that's a big number. Staff? And then administrators, managers. Okay, so I got three messages to the faculty. First of all, thank you for what you do. I think we all know, and I think all of our trustees can agree, that when you have a great college, and Saddleback College is a great college, you need two fundamental things. You need good teachers and motivated students. And what we're lucky here to have at Saddleback College is that we have both. I know how hard the faculty works to not only inspire the students, but to take them to the next level and to motivate them. And we see that every day. One thing I think we take a lot of pride in here at Saddleback, and of course the board, is the recent accreditation report, which I believe said it commended Saddleback College for creating a student-centered environment. And I think that goes to the faculty, the staff, and the administration. That's an amazing accomplishment. You should be very proud of yourselves for that. To the staff, one other thing on the faculty. I think we have a great college here at Saddleback College, but I don't think anyone's resting on their laurels. I think we're always trying to adapt. We're always trying to make it better. And I know that the faculty right now is looking at the issue of artificial intelligence, a very complicated issue, which I think can provide benefits to learning, but there's also pitfalls. And I know that's being looked at. And I think it's, there's opportunities, and then there's lots of challenges going forward. To the staff, thank you. Trust me when I say that all these people in front of you, my colleagues, the Board of Trustees, we know how much you do to make these colleges, this college, great. You're unsung heroes. You work behind the scenes. You provide value to the faculty, to administration, and to the students. And I want to thank you for that. And to the administration, to the no, we don't even see half of what the staff does. You know, we see it every month at the board meeting, what happens behind the scenes to make our board meetings run smoothly. But I can tell you, you know, from the groundskeepers to the maintenance to, you know, I had a tour of Saddleback College a few months ago to look at what we're doing to get the Water Hero Award from the municipal, from Moulton and Gale Water District. Saddleback College got a Water Hero Award for replacing many of the plants and shrubs that are now drought resistant. and well deserved. And then to the administration and to the leadership. Juliana's not here. So first about, Juliana, we brought her in about 2 years ago, and she has been a breath of fresh air. I think she's been open, transparent. She's been everything that we had always wanted, I think, as a board, and I see some nods of heads before my colleagues here. She's been everything that we wanted from a chancellor, and she's doesn't sit in an ivory tower. She's sequestered right now only because of her exposure, but she gets out, and I know she meets with faculty and staff and students all the time. Are there any students here? Okay, next week. Okay, so with that, look, our goals are, we recently set our Board of Trustees. We have goals. We meet every year and we set them. And I'm not going to go through all of them. There are, I think, 7 goals we have for this next year. And they're centered around student success, fiscal responsibility, making sure we adapt in a changing environment. But we know we don't succeed as a board if we're not collaborative and we don't work together with the administration, with the faculty and the staff. And I think that's a spirit in which we, as trustees, try to operate. We have a good working relationship with each other. We're quite civil, and we try to set the tone for the college and the district in a way that advances this great place that is so special to all of us. So with that, I thank you again. Thank you for everything you do to keep this college great, and have a fantastic academic year. And by the way, there's and the reason why they couldn't hear you, I think, is lots of energy. I mean, pulling into campus this morning, I mean, there was cars and traffic, and it felt great. So congratulations again, and we'll see you soon.
Today, for those of you who've been here for a few weeks, you may be amazed that we have a walkway all the way around the quad again, because it was quite a different situation just a couple weeks ago. And folks worked tirelessly to make that happen for today, so that we would not be put off by having to walk through buildings to get to another building, because that's how it looked just a couple weeks ago. So really grateful to have strong contractors, great architects, and particularly strong support from the district construction managers and that whole team led by Medhani and Anne Marie. So thank you, district, for that. What I want to share with you today is a combination of a story about who we are and where we're going, but I want to tell that story through numbers. So last year was a very big year for us. So we finished 2 major campus renewal projects. Trustee Jamal mentioned the Water District Award that we got for our beautification project. This is a dramatic change in our campus, and we're about to start the second phase for some of the areas that we didn't get to in Beautification 1. And people are commenting about our campus, and we are winning awards and getting attention because the appearance of our campus makes a difference for us and for our students. And we opened Gateway. Gateway flips the way that student support is delivered, and in some cases, even the way that teaching and learning happens on the 3rd floor. The building has gotten the attention of many other schools that are in design phases for their own projects who have toured. It got a feature in Architecture Magazine, a national magazine for architects, and it is getting a lot of kudos for HED, the architects that created it. That building is a point of pride for us, and it's one of several down the road coming up. We conferred 5,544 associate degrees, a record for our college. Yeah. And I just want to point out, we conferred a total of 8,942 credentials, which is a record from us even from last year. But of those 8,942 credentials, again, 5,500 were associate degrees. So when we talk about giving away record conferrals, I don't want people to think, oh, are you just doing like short-term credentials to get those numbers up? No, I'm talking like full certificates of completion and full associate degrees, and up in all of those important numbers year after year. And here's the other thing I want to share with you about this that really makes it even more amazing. If you look at a student graduating just this last May, that student has been with us for an average of years. And those were very significant years for that average student. That's through the pandemic, when our enrollment dipped. So fewer students than ever in the last decade in some of those years, and greater number of conferrals. So that means if we had held on to enrollment, if the pandemic hadn't happened, that number of degrees would even be higher. So we are taking the students we have and doing more for them than we ever have in our history. And as a result of that, the end product of that is conferring more degrees to more students than ever. And by the way, 2 went to Harvard. We love UCI, we love CSU Fullerton, we love UCLA, we love UCSD. We send our students everywhere, but that includes the East Coast, it includes the Ivies. You start at Saddleback, you can go anywhere you want. And we need to talk about that and be very proud of that, because that is unique for community colleges. We have a reputation as Saddleback among the Ivy colleges, Princeton, Stanford, and Harvard in particular. They look at Saddleback students. We launched 5 new schools. As President Jamal mentioned, we earned 2 commendations from the accreditation renewal process. One he mentioned is around our student focus, using that student lens, having a student focus in everything we do through collaboration. That happened for a couple of reasons. First, because of the other commendation we got and how we actually made all that happen, but also when they toured Gateway and saw the focus of Gateway, and they went to an open forum and listened from people about how we have a student focus, that's how we came away with that second commendation. The first commendation we got is for that instructor level reporting that we do. We said, just as we support students actively, not passively, just as we do a basic needs survey and we find out by going to the student what they need instead of putting out the open sign at our offices and waiting for them to come to us, we are now doing the same for each other. When we need data, we don't wait for people to go to a dashboard, we send the dashboard to them. And it's already starting to make a difference in some of the student numbers. We supported over 4,000 students, over 2,000 students per semester with scaling of the student needs survey. Again, moving from passive, come find us when you need us, to active. We're gonna find you and find out what you need supports. And this year, for the first time, we added success coaching as one of the things that students can ask for, so here. And Nick Perry and I had a fun little bet going about how many we would have. I forgot, where are you, Nick? I think I said like 100, 200, I said? I said 50, she's gonna shame me. I said 50 students will request success coaches. We are coming up on 500. That was last week, I'm already behind. We surpassed 500. So the number one need that we get from students on the student survey is still mental health services, tells you where we are in this world right now. Counseling, a close second, tutoring, and basic needs, and now it looks like success coaching is gonna be up there among the top needs that our students come to us. And I don't know if you've seen the signs, I heard something about this. There may have been like a banner I saw somewhere on campus. But our nursing program kind of got like this prestigious thing going this year, and they competed, as they always do every term, not just, I want you to understand this, this isn't just against two-year nursing programs, this is against the best universities and the so-called top-ranked nursing programs all around the country, 1,500 nursing programs at all. And if you ask yourselves, what metric would you use to decide if a nursing program was strong relative to its peers, you might say, well, do they prepare their students for nursing careers? Well, it just so happens there's an exam that does that. It's called National Boards. And the National Board exam is the metric that we're using to tout our status as the #1 nursing program in the country. And I want to tell you, if you aren't in nursing and you are saying, what about my program? I'm not getting attention, I don't get any. Why, Elliot, did you cover half of health sciences? Why did you cover the building with a banner? Why are all these signs up? It's called the halo effect. And here's how it works. In marketing and business, when you have a product that does really well and gets a lot of attention, it helps people discover all of your other products and all of your other services. We all look better for having the #1 nursing program in the country. We all should be proud of it, regardless of what programs we're affiliated with, regardless of what our role is in that program or how removed we are from that program. The reality is, this is a Saddleback Award. This is us. Saddleback has the #1 nursing program in the country, and we all get to shine in that light. We also saved our students $8 million with zero textbook costs. One of the leaders in this across the country. So I want to tell you something, just so you can put this in perspective. And I mentioned this in one of my Friday updates from the end of the year. So if we offered free tuition to everybody, whether they needed it or not, just not those who were bog waiver eligible, not just Promise, but if we said free tuition at this college to everybody, what do you think the amount is that we take in student fees, tuition, in student enrollment fees? What do you think that amount is? Roxanne, what is it?
Sorry, let's test part of the question.
What's that? Oh, 9 million. So we do the equivalent of free tuition for everyone with zero textbook costs. That gives you a sense of the scale of what it means to be 58% of enrollment ZTC, heading soon for 60%, and heading a year or two after that, hear me, Kim DRC, at 70%. We're gonna make it happen because students benefit by millions, and we remove that burden from them. This does not happen because I get up here and talk about it. This happens because their library support do the work that's necessary to create zero textbook courses. It is a lot of work. It is, believe me, a lot easier to pick a good textbook and create your quarter, your semester from that textbook than it is to do it with zero textbook costs. It is a burden, and it is a burden that we are grateful our faculty meet every day, and more are doing it every semester. $8 million for our students. We netted over 500 enrollments from the new consortium that we just became a teaching college for last year. 500 net enrollments. This means students across the state are now taking online classes at Saddleback. Now, let's be very clear about this. Saddleback students can also take enrollments at other colleges across the state. So when I say net enrollments, what I mean is all the students who aren't in our service area who are taking classes at our college minus the Saddleback students who are taking classes elsewhere. So 500 net enrollments means students we would never have seen before, we would never have had on our campus, but because we offer classes that are ZTC, but because we offer classes that are POCR certified, the state recognized certification, we go up to the top of the search box and they come here. We are once again known as the leader in online teaching. We were that way for so long before the pandemic, and the pandemic leveled the field for everybody. Everybody had to be at least competent, if not great. But now we are arising again as we were originally, as a leader in the state in online teaching, and we will pull more and more of these, and I will show you in just a few minutes where we are this semester and where we're heading, because I got news for you, we are heading for 1,000. We will be at 1,000 net enrollments to this college from the CVC OEI. We welcomed over 700 students total into the part-time Promise program, looking good again for this year, a Saddleback innovation. We created it. Promise is full-time students, and we asked why. Why can the same wraparound supports, can the same financial support be offered to part-time students when the majority of our students are part-time? Students don't choose to be full-time when they have a job for very good reasons. Students don't choose to be full-time when they have a family for very good reasons. We cannot ignore those students and not take the learnings of Promise and say, let's spread the wealth to part-time students. So we're trying that. It's a pilot. We are using state funds that were dedicated to COVID relief, and we have a few years left on those to basically wrap up this pilot, and then we'll study whether or not we were able to get benefits for part-time students from Promise. A very exciting innovation, and we did it here first at Saddleback. This coming year may be just as big for us. So, quad renovation, I mentioned it. For those of you who haven't seen the design of the quad, rest assured, everything that is on the AGB side will look very similar to what it was before, just with symmetrical cross paths and a big heritage tree in the center and brick paths across, but lots of grass and lots of red Adirondack chairs to retain that serene, I want to sit and meditate or study or hang out with my friends feel. On the side of the quad closest to health science, there will be elevated platforms, seating areas, more activity areas for when we do fairs. So we're adding functionality, but it was very important to us not to take away the core characteristics of the quad. So that's going to work, that's going to be going on through fall, and it'll probably wrap up in January or February or so. So we're not going to have the center of the quad, at least the big part, for most of our activities through fall. So you're going to see a lot of activities like that ice cream social I mentioned at 3:30 today, put on by the foundation. That kind of activity is going to be in the Gateway Courtyard because we've got to find new places to keep that student engagement going. And last year was notable for the increased student engagement in this campus. And I am really grateful to the schools who put on events, to Chris Hargrave's team. Anybody here from Student Life? I saw Jackie earlier. We are so grateful to all of you for making student engagement happen again, and we don't want to lose it this year. So please, if you're thinking of events and activities under your school, under your program, don't be shied away from the absence of space on the quad. We will find space and we will keep it happening as we go forward. Once the quad is done, that big white stucco wall of BGS that faces the quad is going to get a mural. And we already have a beautification committee that's identified a purveyor, a company, and a particular artist. This is some of her work where she's done elsewhere. You can see the theme we're going for. Imagine that on the wall of BGS facing our quad. It's just months away. Saddleback ATEP will open at March. It's under construction right now. This will house our new auto tech program and culinary program, not new programs, but new and renewed in their new location with new opportunities to find industry partners all the way up to central Orange County with new opportunities to pull students from all over Orange County and with a new focus in the case of auto tech on electronic alternative fuel vehicles and autonomous vehicles with culinary and hospitality moving forward into a new generation of cooks and chefs. Here's what that building will look like if you haven't seen schematics of it. It's actually for those programs with a central courtyard in between and an overhanging roof. This is live camera view from Friday of the building under construction. You can see that airplane hangar serpentine roof already completed. The building is almost already sealed in. I know most of you don't get up to Tustin, so I can send the link to you if you're interested in following the live view. But very exciting. We'll be sealed in probably just a few more weeks, and again, complete by March. Math and computer science, if you haven't seen the schematics as you passed the fencing outside the work area. This will be done next. Also, most of the work will be done this year, this academic year. This is going to be a beautiful, beautiful building. Computer science programs, our math programs, and some general classrooms as well. It has already won an award before we ever broke ground on it. It already won an architecture award from the architects that created it. And this is live camera view. You can see this one from parking lot 10. I'm going to try this side of the room. You can already see the live camera view from the parking lot from the library. It is not as far along as ATEP, but the steel infrastructure is complete at this point. You can start to see the silhouette happening. We've recovered enrollment and are poised for growth. Let me dig into this just a little bit so you understand and congratulate yourselves fully. And I just want to say, as a preamble to this, you know, I remember people saying during the pandemic, like, it's never going to come back completely. And most of my CEO colleagues around the state are still saying it's never going to come back completely. And here we are in South Orange County with one of the oldest populations in the state, in one of the affluent areas in the state, such that college students find it increasingly difficult to live here, let alone to go to school here. And we not only recovered enrollment, as you'll see by this fall, but we are poised for growth this year. That's friggin' amazing. And that owes to, you know, strong marketing team. Can we get a round? Like, Anna McDonald's outreach and strategic partnership, I got to tell you, that group, enrollment coaches, you are rocking it. And for everybody that creates the word of mouth, that creates the energy, that creates the reputation, the buzz, the thing that keeps bringing people back here, and we are getting new students like nobody's business. Let me show you just what I mean about this. So our head counts, this is of last year. So of last year, you can see in head counts, there we were pre-pandemic, the graph on the left at 34,185. Last year we were at 33,000, so still down about 1,000 in head count, about 3% in our credit population, our largest population, but pretty much recovered in head count in the non-credit population, owing primarily to our very strong adult ed program. So thank you, Karima, and the whole adult ed team for that. In our actual enrollments, remember there's a difference between head count and enrollment. So we get our funding by enrollment. So when you're looking at how busy are we in terms of student supports, that's largely a function of head counts. Enrollment is how many people are enrolled in classes, which is the way we get allocated. Our enrollments were still down, but much less than the head count. We were almost fully recovered even by the end of last when the final numbers came in. So about 5% below highs for enrollment. So let's look at how this year is going so far. So let's remember those numbers. So head count was down about 3% and enrollment about 5% from our pre-pandemic high. And even that is a high bar because we were one of the few colleges that actually grew in that last year before the pandemic hit us. So I'm measuring up against our high, really, pre-pandemic, because up until then, we were kind of on a slight decline and flat, and then we grew in that last year. But that's the bar I'm holding us to. So down from that year, 3% in heads, 5% in enrollments. So summer head counts, up 16% over the previous summer. So remember, yeah, that deserves some applause. A record summer head count for us. Some are up overall relative to summer pre-pandemic by 3%. Summer enrollment up 17% over the previous summer, and summer relative to pre-pandemic. And summer, I got to tell you, summer doesn't always super impress me because, you know, a student who takes a class in summer may take one less class in the fall. But a lot of what we get in summer are new students starting early, which makes them more likely to be successful. A lot of what we get in summer are university students who are home and taking a class because they don't want to just have a completely unstructured summer or just a work summer, and that way they're staying up and they're ready. So some of this is real enrollment that does not cannibalize off of other terms, and that's really good for us. And having this in the bank, having 2,831 FTES, mind you, our total for a good year is like 16,000, 17,000. So having nearly 3,000 in the bank before today is a really, really good thing. Let's look at fall. So here we are for fall. Fall so far, this is of last Friday when I pulled these numbers. So fall is up 8% in head count from fall of 23. Remember I said we were down 3. So all indications are, unless things go really wrong in the next week, and if spring holds up consistent with fall or even close to it and just hangs on, it looks like we will be fully recovered in head count this year. Enrollment, remember enrollments were down overall about 5% last year from our pre-pandemic fall. Enrollments are up 6% from last year, so it looks like we will actually eke out some enrollment growth. And remember, that doesn't count the growth that I just talked about from summer. So far, we are poised not just for full recovery of enrollment growth, we are poised to grow. One of the minority of community colleges in this state that is going to grow this year. Here we are in South Orange County, affluent, too expensive to live, old, dying, retiring, and growing. That's Saddleback. A poor choice of words. How has that enrollment changed? All right, let's look at this. This is really cool. So a few years ago, we made some really important decisions. We said We have to stop looking at what our college is today and its strong history of what it's been in the past and look at its future and what is happening in our community and get ready for it. So we did two big things. One, we became an HSI, and we live it. I will show you what we are doing to prove that we mean we are Hispanic supporting and Hispanic serving institution and not just a branding effort. You will see it in these numbers today. Second, a very difficult decision. We changed our mascot. We cannot disrespect 30% of our community if we are getting ready for the future. And you joined me in that and said, let's do it. It is painful to the history, but we need to do this to get ready for our future. So here we are today. The top graph shows the percentage of our population that is made up by different demographic groups. And I want you to pay attention to the gray. And what I asked Oprah to do for me, they really focused on the 18 to 25, because I'm not just interested in what the overall Latino population is in our area, what's the college age population? Because we should be matching the percentage of our community that is college age Latino. That percentage should at least be our student body, and it has been. But I want you to see that we're actually exceeding it. So 27% of the 18 to 25-year-old population in our state identifies as Latino. So pre-pandemic, we were 29%. We were already a little bit above that. And then we did two things and a lot more. We became an HSI and we started to live it, and we dropped our mascot and made changes to become a more inclusive college for Latinos and everyone who attends this place. And each year since then, we have eked out small gains in our Latino population. And today, we are 32% Latino at our college. That deserves a round of applause. And that means that the work that's gone into becoming a real HSI, and the work that's gone into becoming an inclusive place for all, and the work that's gone into becoming more accessible for all is actually bearing fruit for us. We are not just following the community number, we are leading the community number in becoming a welcoming place where Latinos go, this is where you go to transform your life through education. So no coincidence in my mind, it is the student survey, the climate survey showed us that our Latino students felt the same or greater sense of welcoming as our typical student, our average white student, our white non-ethnic student. And by the way, that was already in the 90s. So these are amazing numbers that we have created an inclusive environment, and that just means that those students stay longer because they're more likely to be successful because they feel that sense of belonging. They know we love them, they know we mean it, we care about them, and they tell their friends and family. And we actually asked that question in the climate survey. Would you recommend us to your friends and family? And again, our Latino students answered as high, which was already amazingly high on that survey, as our white students. Let's see where that growth is coming from in enrollment. So remember, I said what's really amazing here is we're doing this in a community where the college-age population is shrinking and is expected to shrink in the future. So you would think that the students we wouldn't be getting would be the first-time students. It would be, that 25-plus group that we were all going after. Remember, everybody was talking about the 25-plus, and we still need to think about 25-plus going forward. But I got to tell you, we're getting first-time students. We're getting dual enrollment students right out of high school. Even as the high school population is shrinking, Carrie and her team are going after them, and we're getting greater and greater numbers each year. So the increases in dual enrollment and adult education in particular are where it's at for us, and you can see that investment in becoming inclusive and accessible for our Latino population is paying off in that increase in Latino numbers that I pointed. Yes, we're very proud that we're up 16% in African American population, but that's 16% of 2%. So we have a long way to go to become increasingly accessible and inclusive for that African American population. By the way, For so long, I have said in my stump speeches and talking points, I support 8,000 Latino students. I don't know where I got the number in my head, but it was from a few years ago. The number is currently over 9,000 and heading for 10,000 students. You support 10,000 Latino students at Saddleback College. How do we get here? What have you been doing right? Well, people around this college are working really hard. I mentioned the CVC OEI managing to eke out 500 net enrollments in spring. So far for this fall, last time Kim reported was last week, we were up to 772 enrollments through the online consortium. 651 were net. So yeah, there are a few Saddleback students taking classes at other colleges, but there are a lot of students at other colleges taking classes at Saddleback. And why do they do it? Because of our poker certification. Whoops, that's P-O-C-R, not P-O-R-C, but I do like the new name. It's pork certification. We've got 138 courses that are poker certified. That's that statewide certification that tells people when they're looking for classes around the state that these meet specific qualifications that you want to be careful of and want to know about. And then we did it through international students. So Angela and her team, Angela, take a bow. Last year, 180 students. This year, 250. I need somebody fast at math. What is that, like a 35% increase in the course of 1 year? She didn't do that by opening the door and saying, we're open. She did it by flying around the world. She did it by going out and hustling and bringing those students to us. Because I got to tell you, those aren't just enrollments for us. The enrollment number is small. It's the benefit of having those students in our classroom and on our campus that makes this place global, that gives every one of our students who's never been outside of California a global experience. And having those inputs and having that feeling at the table when you're having a discussion in your class is priceless. Where is our growth coming from? It's coming from better support than ever of our students. So FAFSA applications, Anthony and the financial aid team, up 21% last year in process 16,000 FAFSAs at this college. Why does that make a difference? Because the more we process, the more people who might not have known that they qualify for financial aid find out that they do. And as a result, we can better support them in terms of their financial needs. So we push it, and we make sure everybody, if we had our druthers, filled out a FAFSA. Also, notice what we're doing in basic aid. That's making a huge difference, and I'm going to show you in just a few minutes. We can show that we have basically eliminated equity gaps for low-income students at Saddleback College. We do it by wrapping our arms around them holistically and meeting all of the needs that they have, including their basic needs. Basic needs, maybe you visited the new site that opened up last January. Maybe you were in there, and maybe there were a couple students in there. Maybe you didn't realize that over 27,000 students paid a visit to that site without fear of stigma and visited and got help last year. 9,600 meals and over 2,000 unique students, meaning many of those students went back over and over again. That's holistic support. It also means caring for the physical and psychological well-being. We had 7,400 appointments at the Student Health and Wellness Center last year. That was up 300 from the year before. So people say, oh, things are getting better now that the pandemic's over. No, 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 no. Mental health supports are actually increasing. 37% of those supports were for psych services and 63% for medical services. Maybe you occasionally see a student or two walking into the Student Health Center. You may not have known it was 7,400 last year. A little hand for the folks both at the health center and psych services. All right, let's look at some numbers. You ready? Nobody's quantiphobia here. We're gonna do it. All right, let's look, starting with the end game in mind. Where do we complete? How do our students complete? Well, we talked about this. I think we're gonna need to bring that level down just a little bit. We talked about this, and I mentioned that we are conferring more degrees than ever. You can see the graph at the left is pre-pandemic, 2019-20. This is the year before last, and this is last year, the year that we just completed. And you can see that in all categories, we are increasing the type of degrees that we are conferring, even though, as I mentioned earlier, enrollment during the period in which those students would have been with us was actually going down, which means we are getting better and better at this. But I want to break this down a little bit so you can actually see who's getting those degrees. Because when we do that, we have to stop and pause for a moment and say, if 32% of our population is now Latino, then 32% of our associate degrees should be going to Latinos. If 32% of our population is Latino, then 32% of our certificates of completion should be going to Latinos, and so on. And we can see that with Latinos, as well as some of our other very important demographic groups, we are falling short a smidgen. For Latinos, about 4% is the equity gap. That's not huge, and I will tell you it's much smaller than other colleges whose data I have looked at. And for African Americans, it's even smaller. It's a very tiny equity gap in who's getting the degrees at the end of completion. The largest of all of the completion gaps is actually for those adult students, the non-trads that I mentioned, 25 plus. And you can see where that comes from if you think about who those are. They're often working full-time jobs. They're more likely to have families and other priorities. They're often with us part-time, and part-time in and of itself has a lower chance of completing. The longer you take with any task, the less likely you are to complete it, right? Life gets in the way. So some of that makes sense regardless of what we do, but we can see that we do need to do things like part-time promise to better support those students to lower those gaps. But I want you to focus on these equity gaps because we want to now look and dig down and say, where do they come from? So if we have an equity gap in completion and the amount of degrees that we're conferring at the end of the road, where can we trace those equity gaps to that we can really focus on? So let's look at that. When we look at transfers to universities, another endpoint for us, again, we can see we've made significant gains. This is as much a function of how many students they take in as it is a function of the good that we do. But you can see in particular very large gains because we're not waiting for the UCs and CSUs to take in more students. If we've got more students to transfer, we will send them to Harvard. So we are there sending them wherever they need to go to make sure they go to a four-year university and doing it better than ever. But when you look at who we actually send out to transfer, we can see significant equity gaps, particularly for our Latino community, and again, the 25 plus, and this is one of the rare areas where we do see a low income gap. And a lot of this has to do with the whole helicopter parent phenomenon, right? If you're low income and you don't have those helicopter parents, you may not know all of the universities that you get into. Maybe you only apply to one because your brother went there. Maybe there are other places you could go. So we have to give greater attention to those first generation and low income students. So next, dig down. Now let's look at how our students do fall to fall. How many of them stay with us for a whole year? Now the average for community colleges across the country is typically around 50 to 55%. So we're already doing significantly above average. Our students are 60% likely to persist. And you can see we had that dip. That is what you call your pandemic dip there in those particular numbers. And we have recovered from that and are back up, as of last year anyway, or the year before last, to 60% and continue to get better at that. But you can see significant equity gaps there in some of our populations. Notice though, I want you to notice, so the overall population is the dashed line, not the one at the top. The one at the top, by the way, is low income. So are we taking care of our students who come from low SES backgrounds? Are we doing right by our students from low income? I give you this. They are persisting at a higher rate than our overall. So the answer is yes. It doesn't mean that we should take away one thing that we're doing to support students of low income. It doesn't mean we don't have to worry about basic needs every day. It doesn't mean we don't have to worry about parking costs. We will continue to do those things because it's working. But when we look for what work we have to do next, it is not about low income. What is it about? Well, you can see the equity gaps that we do see are largely around race and ethnicity, particularly around African Americans and Latino students. So still work to be done to increase that persistence. And again, large gains in the age 25 plus because they had such a big dip during the pandemic as many of them went to work and dropped out of school, and now some of that is back. So let's do another dig down. Let's go down to course completion. So where are they struggling? Where does a 25 plus student, a non-trad student, where does a Latino student, where does an African American student encounter barriers that ultimately are affecting their persistence and their completion? And you can't say anymore, it's because they're low SES background. You can't say, hear me well, that, oh, if they're Latino, they're also more likely to be low income. I'm showing you data that says that's not the case. I'm looking at race ethnicity separate from low income. So in course completion, all of our faculty now get similar reports that show the equity gaps in their classroom. We have work to do. And this is not just a faculty problem. This is all of our problems because our job is to support the students while the faculty are teaching them, right? Our job is to make sure they succeed in the class by wrapping around them all of that love and all of that support that we can offer while they're learning in their class so they feel supported. So this is all of our jobs, but recognize that we still have significant equity gaps. So overall, again, that's the dash line, and our Latino population is shown at orange, and you can see it's down at about 69%. This is as of, I think this one is from last year. So this is still off about 6%. I think at our low, I think when I started, we may have been at 7% for our Latino equity gap. So we're kind of flat. We're not really moving the needle very much on these equity gaps in course room completion. And that's why I ask us all to really focus that on this year. For African American students, shown in green, you can see that the equity gaps are much higher. They're sitting at about 12%. They've been as high as about 14%. And that one is flat. I gotta tell you, these numbers are smaller than national and what I've seen at other schools. So we are trying, we're doing something right, but I gotta tell you something else. There are schools that have wiped these out. So what you can't tell me, you can think it and you can tell me and I won't judge you, but what I'm telling you is wrong, is that it's not that we can't do anything about this. This is society. This is poor preparedness when they come to us. I hear it, and I think there's a bit of it that's true. But the thing is, if other colleges have been able to narrow and wipe these out, why can't we? And the thing is, if you meet with your department and look at all of the equity gaps in course completion for all the people who teach the same course, I swear to you, you're gonna see differences. So if it's the students and not us, that shouldn't be the case. So what I'm asking us to do is to renew our efforts to increase course completion overall and to narrow and eliminate equity gaps in course completion. Because at the root of completion equity gaps is ultimately course completion gaps and equity in course completion. And that's all of our job. Transfer level English and math completion in the first year. Yeah, I know it doesn't look great, but I gotta tell you, relative to state numbers, these are really, really good numbers. So the gray is a momentum point, and what a momentum point means is this is a piece of data that highly correlates with student completion. It's one of the highest correlations. That is, if a student completes transfer level math and English in their first year, they are much more likely to complete than a student who doesn't. So getting them to take those classes in their first year and getting them through them, particularly math and the difficulty of math for so many students, is a big challenge for us. And we are doing our best at increasing some of those numbers, and many of the gains that English made were actually pre-pandemic because they've been working on that reform for so long, and now AB 705 and AB 1705 is starting to show itself in math, moving up from 31% to 33%, and you can see a little dip this past year. May not be a meaningful dip, we may still be on an upward trajectory, we'll find out this year, but overall you can see we're pretty flat. We're pretty much where we've been, if not making out little gains, in completion of transfer level English and math. One of the exciting things in this is the equity gaps we reported last year. We seem to be narrowing a little bit for the Latino population. You can see Latino success went up by 1%, the orange line there, relative to the overall. And some of these gaps are not bad. Again, notice the low income one, that's the yellow one, relative to the dash line. No gap. We're doing it right for the low income folks. We got that. But for other groups, based on race and ethnicity in particular, and for the 25 plus, one of the largest gaps for us, we are not getting them to English level math and in the first year. And by the way, I know it doesn't work for all students. I know there are students who need to build their confidence and can't do English and math right away. I get it. But I remind you that for those few, the aggregate from the data actually do better. We think we know they're not ready, but what we know from the national statistics and these so-called momentum point studies is that they're actually more likely to complete if we do push a little bit, but then support the heck out of them to make sure they actually complete English and math in their first year. Very important for us to do that. So how do these numbers inform where we go from here this year? Well, one, as I said, we're not going to pull away from what things we already do holistically to support low-income students. We need to continue that work and continue it just as readily and just as speedily and just as deeply as we do right now. We also need to continue the love campaign. Our students have to know that they belong here, that they are welcome here, and that we absolutely, positively make no beans about it. We love them. They are precious to us. No matter how they are at home, no matter how they are in their community, no matter what they see in the news, when they come to this college, they are absolutely, positively loved and precious. And when they feel that, it will make a difference not only in their being able to say, yes, I feel like I belong here, but how they do in things like math and English and all their other classes. We all own it. We all have to make sure they're feeling it. And then focusing on those equity gaps, particularly for first generation, which were one of the largest that we saw for the class completion, and the ones based on race and ethnicity. And all I ask is that we be using these terms honestly. We are not dealing with equity gaps in low income. We are dealing with equity gaps in race and ethnicity. And that can make us uncomfortable, but it's okay to feel uncomfortable. Our society isn't fair, and our job is to try to make it more fair based on race and ethnicity. That is our job, that is our commitment, that is the core of who we are. A few themes from last year, there's no reason to change course. We're on the right course here and we are making good progress. So focus on the thing that got us accommodation, the student experience, the student lens, the student journey. And how do we do that according to the ACC-JC? Saddleback does it through collaboration. We all own this. We all own every piece of it, including course completion. Moving from passive to active student supports, just as the student survey moved us from the long hall with 50 doors to an electronic survey where you tell us what you need and we'll come to you. You'll get a call, an email, a text from us within 24 to 48 hours. We do that for over 2,000 students every semester. We do it actively. Intentionality and systematization. So what do I mean by that? You say, I am really nice to students. When I see a student out on the quad and they seem lost, I'm speaking as Elliot now, I will ask them, can I help you find something? Aren't I a good person? Aren't I doing what I'm supposed to do? Yeah, but here's the thing. Another time I'll be out there rushing to a meeting and I'll see a student who's doing this and I'll walk right by because I'm rushing. We all do this. The thing is about these moments of love, these moments of goodness, they need to be all the time. They need to be every time we have an interaction with a student. Because for the student that I walk by, and I actually don't think I'm doing that, but I'm just putting it in for the sake of the story. I don't want you to think I'm cruel to students. For that student that I hypothetically walk by and don't offer help, that's the only interaction he has with someone from Saddleback that day. And that's what he takes home at the end of the day. So intentionality and systematization means every time. That's the entire core of Caring Campus. Caring Campus is about identifying these behaviors that we do when we interact with students and making sure we do them all the time because it's simple and we can remember. Warm handoff, Oh, don't just point and say, you want Gateway, that's over there. You're going to walk them over to Gateway if you can get away from your desk. You're going to call somebody in Gateway and say, is somebody there to see the student? They need to see somebody in financial aid. That's what we do. And that's just one example of behaviors that can become systematic and part of our everyday routine. We will continue to look at return on investment and scalability. It is great to have little pilots. It is great to have small projects and initiatives. But in the end, how many Latino students do we have? That's right, coming up on 10,000. So we can't do projects for 30 unless it's a way of scaling it to 10,000. Hear me? It's got to be scalable to have the impact so that everybody can get the benefit. Focusing on course completion, particularly transfer level English and math, and a focus on equity gaps, particularly in course completion. Let's talk about the future. I want to tell you a story. So I don't normally talk about my summer vacations because I like to travel and I'm privileged. And I don't think it's right to stand here and say all the exotic places I've been to. But this year, we were in South America, 2 countries in South America, both Spanish-speaking countries. And had a very nice time. It was a good vacation. This was right, I took off the day after commencement. I've never done that before. And had a really nice time. In these Spanish-speaking countries, whenever I find, in Mexico it's not so true because so many people in Mexico speak English, particularly if you go to touristy areas. But if you go to truly Spanish-speaking countries, there may be some English, but you're gonna have to use your Spanish. And for me, I have 3 years of high school Spanish. So when I'm in an immersion environment like that, it is kind of cool because you find like words come back to you that you thought you had lost decades ago. I'm like walking down the street, cosas, things. Like, where did I get that? I forgot, cosas was things. But it came back to me for all those years. But it's not enough because you need like a couple thousand words to have a vocabulary. And forget about conjugation. I don't remember how to conjugate. These are really hard things to learn a language. And once before in the pandemic, you may remember an earlier Friday update, I wrote about trying Babbel, an online program to learn Spanish, because up until then, right before the pandemic, we were in a community ed class. A lot of the managers and I were in together to learn Spanish, and then it dissolved in the pandemic, and we didn't continue. So I tried Babbel, and you may remember from my Friday update, I didn't continue. I was like, oh, I get why some people aren't online learners. Like, I don't have the self-discipline for this. So when I came back from South America and feeling the need to get going again after having this immersion experience, I got Duolingo. And I gotta tell you, I love me some Duolingo. And I think I've been thinking a lot about Duolingo in terms of how it impacts us, not as a threat, but what it can teach us about the future of learning. Because if you can get an old guy excited about learning Spanish, imagine what it's doing for young people. So this is my avatar for Duolingo, and you can ask me what league I'm in. Yeah, it's Diamond. I don't want to talk about it. It's okay. You can ask me how many top 3 placements I've had. Yeah, it's 6 or 7. I don't know which. And I make sure I do something. Today is my 77th day of my streak of making sure I do some Spanish every day. And if I forget, it sends me an email by the end of the day and says, hey, you don't want to let your streak go, do you? It's time to get back to your Duolingo. And if I forget by 9 p.m., it sends me another email and says, oh, your streak is about to go away. You really need to get on Duolingo. And I go back every single day. So I've been thinking about what's drawing me to this app. Because I got to tell you, I have never played a video game since Pac-Man, or Mrs. Pac-Man, I think it was. So I don't do this thing. So I am not naturally drawn to an app that is going to teach me an international language. So what is happening with this app? I have spent weeks dissecting it. Number 1, game technology. They have made learning fun. There are awards and positive sounds, and little explosions happen when I give the right answer. And when I give the wrong answer, it brings it back to me again, and then rewards me after I get it right. These little strokes that we need as human beings have been built into the technology to make it fun. I want to go back. I don't feel like I'm taking a class. People will say, people who are on Duolingo, how many here are on Duolingo? Oh my goodness. Do you, like I do, say you play Duolingo? I say, I'm playing Duolingo right now. Like, go, it's fun. See, disfrutamos. We're having fun. So this is the thing that we have to think about. And by the way, this is happening in K-12 already. They're already doing it. So they're going to have an expectation when they come here of having fun in their classes. And you can say, well, it's college. It's time for them to learn so that they can get ready for universities where it's not fun. We can't do that. It's not just that they set the expectation for us, it's that they learn that way. They've learned to learn that way. In the same way that they are not learning from textbooks when they get home, and the silliness of us using textbooks to teach at this point, forgive me, being blunt here, but in the same way, we can't expect them to learn without giving them some game technology in our classes, mixed in. So I want to support the faculty. This is yours to think about. We want to support you to find it, to integrate it, and it's yours to run with. Contextualization, applied learning, authentic learning. The thing about Duolingo is, and like my original language experience, there's no vocabulary lessons. There's no conjugation lessons. There's no lesson on today we're going to do irregular verbs. There are conversations and a lesson about travel where there's a story about being in an airport, and then other avatars, other characters from Duolingo, Junior and his father, you know them all. They're having conversations, and you have to speak, you have to listen and comprehend, you have to write, and you have to be able to comprehend what's written. All four are required, but in the context of something fun, in the context of the game you're playing. How can we make learning more like that? How can we make learning not just didactic, but learning the didactic as part of the application, a part of the hands-on activity, instead of the other way around? Most of us went to college in a time when we had didactic, theory, and then you applied it, right, in that order. But young people today are coming up and they want the didactic snuck into the applied learning. It's not binary anymore. They want it all mixed in. Open start, open finish. I started Duolingo the day I wanted to start Duolingo. I didn't go to the app and they said, the new start will be August 17th. We look forward to seeing you then. I probably wouldn't have waited, right? And I can stop at any time, but I can't. But the point is that you could. Any of us could stop. My husband, by the way, is on day 512 of Duolingo. He's not stopping. The learning is self-paced. So I had a staycation a few weeks ago, and I racked up about 10,000 Duolingo points. I was on it for at least an hour every day. This week, I will probably do one lesson. I will do a 3-minute lesson every day just to make sure I keep my streak up. Our classes don't always operate that way. There are some asynchronous classes that have that freedom for students, but students will increasingly expect this, and I gotta say, for those 25 plus non-trad students who are working and are raising families, that kind of self-paced activity is incredibly important, but it's incentivized. They don't let me get away a day without doing something so that I'm keeping up the learning. And when I do get more points, I advance in my league and it's competitive and I get awards and all sorts of prizes. And here I am, susceptible to all that messaging. Like, I'm caught up in it. It's fun. AI customized learning and support. Now there's two versions of Duolingo. There's a free version, which I use because I'm frugal, and there's a pay-for version. And there's a little bit of AI built into the free version. There's a lot of AI built into the pay-for version. And the AI here is really about tailoring, making more bespoke the student lesson based on how they're doing and what areas they're struggling in. So the AI element is really about creating customized lessons based on where you're weak and where you're strong. And it's really hard to do that for 40 students in a classroom, right? But one of the things that AI technology can do for us down the road is help us make each student have a customized learning experience without us having to create 40 different lessons for all the students in our classroom. Beyond Duolingo, there's another piece of technology I want to talk about, and that's immersive technology, what we have sometimes called AR/VR, augmented reality and virtual reality, now under the global term of immersive technology. So we had an opportunity Tram and Kim and Art and I went along with the Chancellor and our counterparts from IVC. We were invited to go to Culver City and go to this lab of a virtual reality company called Dreamscape that's making biology programs in particular. Very expensive. I'm not sure when the time is right. If we want to explore it, we'll bring the biology faculty and see if you guys want to do it. But I want to support virtual reality. I want to support immersive technology wherever it is, but we need to make sure that we're having a conversation as a college about what platforms we're using, which of the glasses that we're going to use, what the platform is to hold the software that makes the actual experience for the student, and then what the content is. But I want to try more, and I want to support you in trying more if you want, because I think a lot of this gives students that hands-on experience without having to have a hands-on experience. The experience we had was pretty blow you away amazing. They didn't have quite enough content to impress me, but it was still pretty amazing for a technology in its infancy in terms of teaching and learning. They're doing it in K-12. We're gonna have to keep up. ASU's already opened up, Arizona State University has already opened up a whole lab around immersive technology. So I know people are like, technology, I'm gonna retire soon. Technology, I don't believe in it. Technology, it's gonna take my job. Technology, it's gonna ruin the future. I'm not all that different from you. I often react to technologies that way. But here's the thing. If you look at a college that made us an HSI and then lived it and brought in 1% more Latino students every year, if you look at a college that changed student supports on its head and went from passive to active, we'll survey you, we'll bring it to you. If you look at a college that is graduating more people in a region that is having declining population every year, if you look at a college that created the basic needs survey, if you look at a college that created our one sheet that goes to instructors every term telling you what the equity gaps in your classroom are, there is no way that you need to be afraid of technology. This is who we are. We are the innovators. We lead in this stuff. We don't follow. This is Saddleback. Happy new academic year, everybody. We're going to share a video message from President of the Academic Senate, Dan Walsh, who could not be with us today. And then finally, after Dan's welcome, we're going to hear from Erlen Ballow, our Classified Professional Senate President. Here's Dan first.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the 2024 President's Welcome. This is Dan Walsh speaking to you remotely. I unfortunately had made other plans this summer prior to finding out that I would be Academic Senate President, so I apologize for not being there today. I'll be there for events later in the week. Most of you know me. I've been on campus for over 25 years. I teach geography. I've been Academic Senate President 4 or 5 times before, so I'm comfortable sliding into this role at the last minute. Also, please note, don't confuse me with another famous geography teacher with a similar pronunciation of their last name. He's somewhere in Minnesota, so we're not going to worry about him for right now. Let me introduce our Academic Senate leadership. Of course, there's me, the Senate President, Michelle Gustafson, our new Academic Senate Vice President, Margot Lovett, our past President, and Frank Gonzalez, who'll be taking over for me after 2 years as the next Academic Senate President, and Michelle Duffy, our recorder. This is a great group. I'm looking forward to working with them this year. So for those of you unfamiliar, what's the responsibility of the Academic Senate? You know, you keep hearing that 10+1 bantered about, and really, in the simplified terms, we're responsible for the academic side of the house. The Faculty Association is responsible for the working conditions. We're responsible for everything related to teaching, and they're listed all out here. I'm not going to go through them one at a time. I'd be more than happy to have a 10+1 discussion with you if you want to learn more about it. And also, we go beyond 10+1. We're part of the accreditation process. We have legal roles that we're also involved with that are not delineated in the 10+1. And then let's just face it, it's a good business practice to have your largest employee group the ones that have the most contact with the students, to be involved with the decision making of the college. And we do that. We have a shared governance model in place. Now, what's coming up for 24-25? We've got the baccalaureate degrees discussions. Now, the Senate has to decide if we want to actually pursue baccalaureate degrees, and then there'll be a college-wide work group that sets up the parameters of what will be kind of the things we're looking for when a department program wants to propose a baccalaureate degree, the criteria to look for. It then goes back to the academic senate because we have to approve all curriculum matters. And so baccalaureate degrees is going to be kind of an ongoing discussion as we go through the next year. Now, curriculum. Michelle Duffy wanted me to say a few things about curriculum. We're going to implement CalGETC, AB 928, and the first 6 courses for Common Course Numbering, AB 2011 for fall 25. This is going to keep the Curriculum Committee and the Senate and some programs very busy working on those. Our committees, both college and Senate committees, both Consultation Council and Academic Senate, are going to be looking for more reporting back as what their activities, what's going on. We're hoping that we can have a little more focus in some of their activities, but we'll be discussing this more as the Academic Senate year rolls on. Professional development, which I'm also the professional development coordinator. We've got Great Teachers Conference returning. We'll be discussing that at a session tomorrow at noon. And we want to, as I mentioned earlier about the committees, we want to be focusing on decreasing the equity gaps in some of our student populations. But I'm kind of hoping we can focus on instruction, some of the things that you can do in the classroom or with students to help them succeed. And I want like more hands-on and realistic things. And one of the things that is simple that we can all do is to humanize things, is put our own personal touch into stuff. So students remember, they look forward to the class, they feel a connection with the instructor. And even if they're an online instructor, you can still make that connection. So here I am thinking about what I can do to humanize my presentations to students and my contact with students. And then for many of you, you remember, I've done these presentations before. So what's one of the hallmarks of my presentations, of course, is where have I been? So in my where have I been isn't just Dan's travel log. It's kind of I use this in the classroom, is that when I'm in a place, I'm looking at what's happening. Now, I've been lucky during COVID to be able to travel a little bit, including the Cayman Islands. And there was so many things going on those small little islands, including we were able to miss Hurricane Elsa by one day. The airport shut literally hours after we were able to get out of there. Now, in the state of California, we've got some wonderful national parks here. Sequoia Kings Canyon is close enough, a short drive. You can see the biogeography and climate change. You can see its effect on the biomes, both in the lower elevations and at the upper elevations, and fire ecology comes into play. All of these things we can work into the classroom. The Grand Canyon, obviously different issues as far as vegetation, but this falls into geomorphology. So all of these things, as I show these pictures to the students, and you can do the same things, is bring your lives into the classroom. And what it means to humanize a classroom is you're going to remember that instructor. You're going to remember what they're talking about. So I want to thank all of you. I want you to enjoy your Professional Development Week, and a special thanks to Christy Smead for all of her work that she's done to get this Professional Development Week going with me. So thank you, and thank all of you, and have a great 24-25.
With that, we're going to move to our next and final speaker. We saved the most important president for last. Erlyn Ballow, President of the Classified Senate.
I'm Erlyn. Thank you so much for staying. You can leave if you want right now. So I just want to introduce myself. My name is Erlyn Ballow. I'm your Classified Senate President for this next year. I've been with our district for about 10 years now, and 7 to 8 years here at Saddleback. I got into higher education specifically because I knew I wanted to work at a college, and specifically with college students for the rest of my life. But the reason why I joined Senate leadership just a couple of years ago was because I now know that for the rest of my life, I want to support the work of classified professionals. I'm so proud of what we do, and it makes me so extremely proud to be a part of a group that does so much for students. I just want to make sure that throughout this year that you all feel supported and valued in your work. So I'm going to use my time to sunshine some items that classified professionals have been working on since last semester and through the summer. And on behalf of our students and for us as classified professionals, Caring Campus, led by Stephanie Reyna, Elliot Kling, Violetta Zahari, and Leah Fallbeck. So President Stern spoke about Caring Campus and how much it affects our students' experience. It is a DEI initiative, so yes, we already do this work. We are already kind to our students, but Caring Campus has really allowed us to put a name to the things that we do. So the 10-foot rule, it just means that you're walking a student over, but you're asking about it. It means so much more for that trans student, that black student, that student who is a first-gen student, to see that name tag and to know like, oh, I can ask that person for help. It means so much more. So thank you so much for bringing it to our campus and actualizing it. Shout out Michelle McDougall-Jackson for advocating it 2 years ago. We love you for that. She was a classified professional when she did it, so we claim her. I wanted to say a big shout out. I don't know if anyone in the room is from CSEA leadership, but thank you so much for all the hard work that you do on our behalf. I just want to give a kudos for anyone that served as a CSEA or even a faculty association, like leader, advocate. It's my first year on the negotiations team, and it is so much hard work on top of the work that you already do. And the fact that you advocate for us as unit members, unions are important, so I'm so grateful for the work that you do, and we all are working hard on behalf of our classified professionals and for you all faculty back there. I see you. And then finally, Classified Senate. I just want to announce our new leadership. So along with me, we have Georgina Martinez, who is my wife and also, not really, but she's like, I'm going to make her my wife. She's my president-elect. My VP at large, Riley Phelps. My VP for Equity and Inclusion, Casey Cooper. Our treasurer, Maddie Hernandez. Recorder, Alondra Hernandez. And our members at large, Nancy Ayala and Jorge Delgadillo. And our webmaster, Marco Benavides Madriga. If you're in the room. Thank you so much for being my team. We have a lot in store for this coming year. Our 3 goals for our classified professionals is to make sure that you all use your PD funding. We get a huge amount from the district every year. Thank you, district, for giving us this money. But part of the reason why we have this is so that you all feel like you're learning and growing in your roles and we're making the institution better. So please use your $2,000 to go to a conference, to learn more about the work that you're doing, to feel fulfilled in the roles that you serve here at the college. We're looking for senators, so we want to fill out senators so that we are making sure that we're bringing information from consultation council back to all of our units and from our units back up to consultation council. We have a voice and Senate is our voice. So if there is something that you want to do, become a senator, because then you can float that up to us and we can we can make it an agenda item at consultation council. You said we could, so I'm going to do that. And then one big thing that we want to work on, because I know all of us have had varying degrees of onboarding at this college and our district, something that we really want to do is make something more uniformed in terms of the experience of becoming a Saddleback employee. And I know I'm speaking specifically to classified professionals, but if you want to, something that we would like to do is develop a work group around onboarding new employees at the college, just so that they feel welcome, that they have that great experience, that Caring Campus experience that we're developing for our students. We want to have that for each other. And thank you again so much for Caring Campus and all the work that you've done, because not only have you made the student experience better, you've also helped to make the classified person's experience better. I feel like I've been able to, visit places that I've never had on our campus. So I highly encourage everyone to get involved with Caring Campus this year, participate with Senate. Thank you so much for serving with me at this campus. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Erlyn. So it's going to be a theme this year. We do a 2-hour program in an hour and 20 minutes. Less time, more meat. Hopefully we can keep it up at all of our meetings. Thank you all for staying with us this whole time. You all win the Duolingo Happy Dance Persistence Dance. We really appreciate it. Everybody gets a reward for everything. Everything that you do, every interaction for students makes a difference, and I am grateful for that work and all of those wonderful, loving interactions. This is going to be a great year. We're going to open some new buildings. We're going to further beautify our campus, including our quad. We're going to graduate and hand out awards to more students than we ever have in the past, and we are going to crush equity gaps. Thank you, everybody. Have a great academic year.